All right, thanks, Chris. Good to see everybody. Excited to get back home here. Good couple of game stretch away from Norman here, but excited for a home game Saturday night against a very good TCU team, a team that we know very well. One of the few staffs in this league that's been pretty consistent most of the way through here, at least our tenure here. So, ton of respect for Coach Patterson, job he's done there for years and years. They got a really good football team this year. Guys playing well on both sides of the ball, explosive offensively. They're running the ball very well. Quarterback's playing well for them. Always good defensively. He seems to be able to just plug and play guys defensively year in and year out and find ways to play very well. So it'll be an exciting challenge and excited for our team. Now we're in the second half of the regular season. A lot of good here in the first half, a lot of things that we can learn from, and this has typically been the time for us when we really surge and play some of our best ball, and that's absolutely our intent right now. And so really focused on what's forward and excited about the team we have. I know I'll get a bunch of questions about it. Don't plan on naming a starting quarterback here this week. We'll see how the week plays out, see where we are when we get to Saturday. Guys have done well, practiced well today, so we'll see how it goes. We'll see you Saturday at 6:30. All right, questions?
Go to Ryan Aber. Yeah, Lincoln, got to start off with the quarterback thing. I want to ask you about Spencer and the way he's handled things over the last 72 hours or so. What have your interactions been like with him, and how is he doing and handling everything?
He's doing, considering the circumstances, he's doing well. It's not easy for a young guy. I mean, this guy gets painted a different way publicly than what he really is, and he's a great kid. He's worked his tail off here. He's been a really good player here. I have a ton of trust in him, and so he's doing well. It's not easy. I mean, it's not easy competing at the level we do and being on kind of the stage and platform, and it's great when things are going good, but it also can make it tougher when something doesn't go your way. And but no, I think he's handled it well. We've had some good talks. I gave him the day off yesterday. I told him, get out of here, don't come up here. We had a good talk, and I wanted him just to refresh, recharge, and come back re-energized and ready to go today. And he came back today and had a great practice, just like I expected he would. Was bouncing around the practice field. So he's a great kid. He's working hard. Again, I have a ton of trust in him, and it's not. Everybody thinks they want this, but it's not easy. And it's what's good for me is the history with some of the guys that I've been lucky enough to coach here. They've all had those types of moments, and not one of them that had just the nice, smooth, rosy ride to where they are now. It's there's always bumps in the road. There's always challenges, and you've got to find ways to overcome them, and you got to rely on your support systems to do that. And Spencer's going to do that, and he's going to be just fine. He's too good a player to not be very good as this thing goes on.
Jason Kersey?
Yeah, Lincoln, I think we all assumed Spencer was going to be the guy because of last season, but during the preseason, during fall camp, was there a quarterback competition? I mean, was Caleb competing for that job?
I mean, we have competition at each spot, but I would say fall camp it was I'll say not close, but it was very clear that Spencer was the guy that was going to start the season. I don't think there was any doubt about that. So, and again, I know how these things go, and everybody, is going to remember what's most fresh on their mind. A week ago, we were sitting up here talking about how well Spencer played, and the other part of it is we got to remember, I think we are on I don't know what it is, 13, 14 game win streak right now, so the sky's not quite falling. So, I think we keep it in perspective. Spencer did not play his best early in the game the other day. Caleb came in and did a good job. Caleb wasn't perfect either. Did a good job. Spencer did a great job coming in on the 2-point play. For me, I feel like I have two really good players, and I feel like I don't see it as a problem. I don't see it as an issue. It's like, you've got to choose between two great options, and it's a good position to be in. And I know both those kids will respond no matter what position they're in.
Lincoln, moving on, Marcus Major back, how quickly can he become a factor in the running back room, and how much that can help with the depth here for the second half?
Yeah, no, it was a nice surprise, honestly. It was a little unexpected. But no, it's good to have him back in the fold. He's been practicing as a scout team member the entire year, so he's had a chance to go against our defense and run competitively each week. So we'll get him back reacclimated with us offensively, and he's still been in meetings and all that. So he'll just need some reps to kind of get back in the flow and rhythm. But yeah, no, it'll be great to have. We've been, fortunate to keep, those guys healthy up to this point. But as we know, that position, especially when we have games like Saturday when they're super productive, it's also a very physical position. So having him back it certainly helps. And he's got some good experience and some good explosion, bring some size and some real physicality to the room, which will be a nice addition.
Lincoln, two-part question, if you wouldn't mind, related to the portal and the quarterback position.
Yeah.
It's omnipresent, especially at that spot, everywhere. You've been through it here. First question, do you have assurances that both those guys are going to stick this season out? Some coaches have to worry even week to week anymore with how available the portal is. Mm-hmm. And number two, how much does the transfer situation loom in however you navigate that situation moving forward?
Yeah. Listen, there's never any guarantees. I mean, you can't predict the future, but I would fully expect to have both those guys the entire season. I would. Again, I know there's never 100%, but I think both those guys are pretty committed to this football team. I think it's a factor. I mean, I think as you plan long term, it is. I think, what we've tried to preach with our guys, especially in the middle of the season. I mean, one is your commitment level to this place, and then these opportunities pop up. I mean, so often, and I mean, there's so many examples through the years of maybe a guy. I mean, we've talked about it in here some, like Marquise his first year, and I mean, there's I could go through 50 guys right now of guys that maybe opportunity didn't show, and then all of a sudden, bam, here you go. But I think our point to these guys has been, as this question has been brought up, I'm not talking about the quarterbacks, but just the team in general, has been, what is the advantage for leaving mid-season? I mean, to me, if you're wanting to leave and go search for another opportunity, then that's fine. But you're going to leave, you're going to go to nowhere. All right, you can't practice football on your own. You can train and do all that, but you can't actually practice football by yourself. So here you could be sharpening your skills, helping the team, and maybe an opportunity pops up here and bam, you're ready. And if it doesn't, all you've done is make yourself more marketable and more ready for the next stop. And then the other thing I've told these guys, I've been honest about it, and I get maybe other coaches not everybody feels this way, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I can tell you personally, if I'm looking at a guy that's a potential transfer incoming here, and that guy quit on his team mid-season, unless there's a extenuating circumstance, I'm gonna have a hard time taking him. And I think a lot of other coaches would echo that as well. So, I mean, because the question in your mind comes up, well, if he did it there, why wouldn't he do it here with us? And so I think this guy's got to have some perspective on it and some patience. And then I think at the end of the season, you sit down and have reasonable discussions with these guys, their families, and try to figure out the best route for everybody.
John Hoover.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, from your perspective as the head coach and the quarterback's coach, the guy who makes these calls, when you have a preseason competition and you're trying to decide between who's going to the starter's going to be, and you're looking at criteria and you're grading this and grading that, what now? And when you've got a situation, a decision to make like you made Saturday, moving forward, do you apply some of the same criteria? Is it a different criteria because you've seen them in games? How do you apply that?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think there's going to be, I would say, admittedly, a little bit more feel with this one, but I've also got a lot more to go on with both these guys. I mean, that's, in Spencer's case, I've obviously been in a lot of battles with him, and the experience, the trust factor, all that's there with Caleb. I mean, I'm seeing more reps, day in and day out. I've got a chance to see him play in some games, so you're learning more. Admittedly, there's not as many reps to go around as you do in a fall camp. But now you're talking about specific game plans and what you think is going to be best versus an opponent, how guys practicing. So, we still, regardless we got starter, backup, whoever it is, I mean, we still give our backup here a decent chunk of the reps. And so, again, if we were to go 50-50 on the reps, it's not going to cost the starter a lot, and the backup's not going to be getting a whole lot more. Really just splitting hairs there. So I think it's very easily navigated. And again, I think it's a heck of a lot more of a problem to me if I feel like I got two guys that ain't ready. And it's like I'm not picking between two very good choices. So I feel like I'm picking between two really good choices that I think can both go play extremely well and have played extremely well.
Barry Trammell?
Yeah, nobody does it anymore. They used to do it fairly often. Everything about just playing two quarterbacks.
No.
And I don't mean in like 2-point conversion or short yardage. I mean just literally play them both.
I guess to my core, I'm not in favor of it, but I don't want to, just because it's maybe something that I don't deep down really believe in. I don't know that I'd ever take it off the table if I felt like it could help our team. But I guess at the surface, it's not something I would want to have, but I could never know. I could stand up here and say, heck no, and then we go do it on Saturday. So we'll just see how it evolves. Yeah.
What's the downside? Why don't people do it anymore?
I think the rhythm is tough. I mean, I think there's some challenges there, just with the rhythm of the game, seeing things. I've always believed sometimes that it's more, similar to kind of what happened 2 years ago in the Texas game where, if the starter, you feel like it's just a tick off, you let them kind of catch their breath, sometimes it's good for them to kind of see it from the sidelines and kind of see it unfold as opposed to out there and kind of in the middle of the action. And I've had a couple examples throughout the years where I think that's been pretty effective. So I think the rhythm of it and for the entire offense is probably number one. And then I think a lot of times, unless you got guys whose their styles are exactly the same, you're talking about, potentially two sets of game plans, all of that, which can be challenging for the other 10 guys.
Wouldn't two sets of game plans, as challenging as it is, wouldn't it drive Gary Patterson crazy? Do you think that's happening?
If you could do them well, it'd probably make them tough. But I think at some point there's some diminished returns there offensively, against especially like a good defense like this on, what can you get the guys ready to do at a high level against a good group.
James Hale?
You talked about Gary Patterson, the things he does defensively. What does he do that always causes people problems on defense?
Yeah, man, there's a lot. They're very multiple. I think they've always done a tremendous job in the secondary, have made things, very tough. They're very aggressive with your routes. They do a good job of pattern reading, and they know their system, man. You can tell they know it inside and out. They play it well. Always seems to find a couple of pass rushers that, maybe were in a ways maybe kind of hidden gems that turn into really good pass rushers. So they've done a good job. They've done a good job evaluating, developing players. They've got a system that they really stick to and believe in, and I think that's why you see the consistency throughout the years.
Cliff Brown?
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to ask you about Kennedy Brooks, who has actually become one of the more productive backs in OU history, even though he's really never been the man. He's started 11 games. A lot of times he comes off the bench. Your thoughts on what he's been to the program and the kind of mentality you have to come through consistently in that situation?
Yeah, no, he's meant a lot to the program. I mean, he's been a part of a lot of big games, big wins, big moments here. And that was kind of obviously a little off the radar last year with everybody. But we're certainly glad he's back. And no, it's been a great ride for him. It is, and it was exciting to see him starting to get back to playing the kind of ball that he can play, and maybe even playing better than he's ever played. And so excited for the second half of the season. He's been positive. He's learned a lot. I think he's really grown up a lot in the last few years. Work ethic's gotten better, practice habits have gotten better, and it's fun to see a guy who is a team first player having some success and doing the things that he's doing well now, especially after just kind of how all last year transpired.
Ken Carlson?
Lincoln, the expectations of this team remain high, I have no doubt, regardless of who plays quarterback. But having an even younger guy than Spencer potentially playing snaps moving forward, Are there challenges inherent with a true freshman being in that position? I mean, obviously, it's happened before that those guys have played at a high level. Trevor Lawrence obviously comes to mind, but are there challenges just inherent with that? And are there some things about Caleb that make you think he could really flourish in those situations?
Hard to say until we, I think, see how it plays out. I mean, some of that's a little bit of kind of foreshadowing and trying to understand how it's going to play out. I mean, I think the team does have high expectations, and I think we're learning more and more to try to zero in on our own and not worried too much about the outside. I think our team's doing a better job of that as we go forward. I think for our team, though, and I think, you look at college football this day and age with rosters turning over so much, and this is maybe not as specific to just Caleb or just a quarterback position, but like you better have true freshmen ready to play. I mean, it's just the nature of it. Rosters turning over more, you're bringing in more new people than ever before, and if your new people aren't ready to contribute, I mean, you're going to be behind. And so it's really. It's crazy how much different it feels because, I don't know, I guess when I first got started coaching, it felt like a true freshman coming in and playing well was like a bonus. It was like, man, that was great. We got contributions from a couple of these freshmen and we're developing these other guys behind the scenes already. And now it's like, man, like we need you to contribute. There's going to be opportunities to contribute. And so I think you've got to rely on those guys more and more. You got to get those guys more and more ready at all positions. And I'd say quarterback's no different there.
Being able to step into that more readily now than they would have, say, 5 years ago?
I do, just because I think it's been done more. You reference, Trevor, and I mean, there's been true freshmen all over positions make big plays for big teams going down the stretch and championship teams and all that. So I think it's just become more the norm. It's a little bit more of the expectation level. It's also some of the flip side of probably why you see so many transfers, kind of the good and bad of it, because everybody does want to come in to play, and a lot of people see freshmen playing here, freshmen playing there. But yeah, I think the mentality of the kids is much different. More guys come in, really wanting to play. And it's like I said, there's good and bad to both.
Jesse Britton.
Hey, Lincoln, I wanted to ask you about Marvin Mims. Obviously, a big game for him on Saturday. What did you see for him overall? And is that something that maybe that can give him momentum through the rest of the season?
Yeah, no, he was awesome. I mean, the plays he made on the balls down the field were huge plays and just great competitive plays, which is something we, as a receiving core, we really try to pride ourselves on. And he did a great job. And yeah, it was good to get him. We've been able to get him a little bit more involved here the last couple of weeks, which has been good. I think a big key to us playing well because he's one of our best players. And he's done well. He's a tough matchup out there. He really is. I mean, the speed, the ability to go get the ball down the field, the stuff after the catch. I mean, he's really turned himself into a really good player and keeps getting better. So, he's a big factor for us. We want to keep him involved. And obviously, we probably don't have the same outcome without him making some of those catches that he did.
John Shin.
Lincoln, with I guess kind of all the psychology stuff you've had to do in the quarterback room probably the last 72 hours, you ever kind of go, maybe I wish I had a position coach or a separate offensive coordinator?
And I enjoy this part of it. I mean, that's so much of what you do as a head coach. I mean, oftentimes I may not be in there coaching a D lineman, but when there's an issue, guess whose door gets knocked on, I get a knock every now and then. And so that's the fun part. I mean, the scheme stuff is fun, but I mean, I think, trying to guide these guys through the ups, the downs, try to mentally get them in a great place, help them with things they're dealing with. I mean, that's our whole staff prides ourselves on it. It's important, probably more important in this day and age maybe than ever before with all the distractions, all the stuff out there, mental health issues. I mean, you just name it. And so, no, the X's and O's and all that stuff is a blast, and I still enjoy that. But the hands-on approach with the guys, the quarterbacks, any position is still probably my most important job. So I enjoy it. Again, doesn't mean every day's great, every day's rosy. I mean, that's the nature of my job. you're never going to get to a point where everybody's happy. And I understand that, but we're trying to get to a point where everybody's supported and everybody's got a kind of a path forward to doing better individually and doing better for the team. And we try to always make sure that we're doing our part there.
Ryan Chapman.
Lincoln, since you've arrived, you guys have been really good after Texas. What kind of goes into that behind the scenes as far as avoiding a letdown, and then especially considering just the emotional nature of this game, the big comeback, the quarterback stuff going on? Is that challenge going to be even harder this year?
I hope not. I mean, you guys hear me talk about the Texas game. It's a phenomenal game, but I say it every year. It's probably too much made of it. I mean, everybody wants to talk about like these giant recruiting ramifications and, oh my God, if we lose, and oh, if we win, it's so amazing. I mean, it's great. It's a rivalry win. It's a great win. It was great that Saturday, and shoot, Sunday morning, man, we're on to TCU. Like, that's over. I mean, if that was the pinnacle of our season, if it was our number one and only goal the entire year was just to beat Texas, then shoot, I wouldn't be up here right now. I'd be on vacation right now. So, I mean, there's so much left for us, and we're just now at the halfway point of this thing. So that's been our mentality all the years. I mean, I think the previous teams have done a good job with that, but this team's got to do it. It's just got to be our challenge. We got the blueprint of how to do it, but we got to go do it, and we got to get past the win. I told them we'll all get around someday when we're old and yuck it up and talk about it, but we're done with it for now.
Yeah, just from a maturity standpoint, Caleb, what he came in and did the other day, is he more advanced than a typical freshman? Because that could have been really overwhelming, just kind of the situation he came into, and yet he was poised throughout.
Yeah, he did a good job handling it. It's one game. He did a lot of good. There's things you got to catch all the snaps. I mean, there's some things he did well where he looked like a freshman, and some, or some things he didn't do well where he looked like a freshman. Some things that he did well, obviously, to make some of those plays. So I mean, I think it was certainly positive. Always excited to see a guy with kind of their first real shot and how they go perform, and I think overall he handled it well, but he'll have a chance to get a lot better as he improves and as we go on. We had a lot of young guys come in there and handle it well. So I definitely don't want to minimize it, but I mean, it was, we got a long way to go here, and he needs to build on it and keep improving like everybody else.
Jason Kersey.
Lincoln, you once described Kennedy Brooks' running style as like he's in the park with his Labrador. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen anybody else that runs like that? How unique is his running style?
It's really unique. I don't know that there's anybody I could pinpoint to that. It almost led us, honestly, to not offering him in high school. And we were a late offer. And, we watched the tape and we would like it, but we never were like, wow. It's like, like on the field the other day, like you watch him running like compared to like Bijan, it's different. It's just a different style. And Bijan's style kind of catches your eye more. There's a little more suddenness, a little bit more explosion. It just looks different. But I mean, he's just good at it, man. I don't know. It's so hard to describe. And it was like the same thing we were going through evaluating him in high school. It was like, man, he's good. Is he big enough? Is he fast enough? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't know if he's big enough, fast enough. He rushed about 350 yards a game. So something's pretty good. And I'm glad, obviously, that we got past, some of the, maybe question marks that we had and just looked at, the guy's a really darn good football player. And yeah, it's a unique style. It's the patience is I've had to get used to it too. First in his career, we would get on him a lot for, not running harder, not finishing runs more, not making cuts more violently. And as we went through, you just learned that's just kind of him. And as you watch him, he doesn't miss many cuts, and he's developed a body now where he really breaks a lot of tackles. He's tough to get on the ground. His top end speed's gotten better. So now it is unique because it's so patient. But I think that guy's carried the ball so much in his life, and so he knows who he is as a runner, and he's very confident and settled in himself and knows what his strengths are, and it's you see the results of that.
conversations with NFL teams about him? I mean, I wonder if he'll test well.
Yeah, no, I probably so. I probably so and happily would. But I think, are there going to be backs that would go out there and potentially go test better than him? There will be. But you turn on the tape, there ain't too many better than that guy.
Okay, just a few more back left.
Coach, I'm sorry if I'm reaching here, but I just want to clear the air about Spencer Rattler and the stigma that you mentioned earlier. So I feel like on the outside, we're all seeing one part of his character, but you bring up how he is as a teammate and as a player that you coach. So what do you see that's different than what we're all seeing? Because I feel like it's two different versions.
What are you guys seeing?
Just off of social media, and we're all students, so we see him kind of a lot, and I feel like he does kind of get a bad rap. I think a lot of times people look too far into the person rather than the player too. So just hearing a lot of things of like him being a selfish player on the field, that type of stuff.
Yeah, no, honestly, I mean, couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, he's, again, for somebody, I'm not saying you personally, but for people that have not been in that arena, what the intestinal fortitude it took for that guy to go back in that game the other day when we put him in that moment, it's hard to explain. And as a coach, you don't put a guy in there if you're worried that, well, he's selfish and he didn't go back in the game and he's not mentally locked in and he's not ready to help the team. I mean, that's the most important single play of the game. So, I don't know that in one answer I could give you a synopsis of this guy, who he is with this team, who he is behind closed doors. I tell you, what he's going through is not easy. He's been a tremendous teammate the entire way through. He's done well here academically. He's done well here off the field. He was maybe the youngest player, I think, since I've been here to be named a team captain by his teammates here. So, I mean, he got a pretty good resume, and he's not perfect. He's learning, he's growing, he's made mistakes. I mean, I think like all of us do at that age. But if this guy, if we've seen his worst, then he's going to be okay. I'll put it that much. He's a heck of a kid. He's a really good player. He got a lot of big days and bright days ahead of him.
Two more, Andy Rodosevich.
Just going to kind of follow up on the poise for Caleb in that moment to be thrown in there. You learn anything else about how he handled that situation? It looks like he's a very calm guy.
Yeah. I mean, he, similar to the last answer, I would say. I mean, I think, mentally he was in a good place. I mean, there were still some young jitters in there. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, maybe not obvious to somebody that's not coaching him, but there was still, there were still moments he looked like a freshman, and there were moments he handled it well. And for the majority, I would say for the most part, he did handle it well. So, yeah, that's important. I mean, it's for young guys, especially at that position, to go in and play well in that game. It's and that atmosphere and all that. I think it does say a lot about guys, and because it's the atmospheres don't get much better than that. So no, it does. I think any time you can get these young guys on the field, give them a chance to play, and they do well, you're going to gain confidence in them as a coach, and they're going to gain more confidence as a player.
How new is this whole thing to you, having to kind of go through what everybody's going through this week as far as possibly changing starters? Do you find yourself reaching out to people outside the program for advice, or?
No, because I mean, like for me, I got 22 other positions or 21 other positions offensively and defensively. Got all these guys wanting to play on special teams. I mean, I deal with this all the time. I know I haven't always been the quarterback. I get that. And are there some small differences because it's a quarterback? Sure there is. I'm not going to sit up here and say there's not. But, I'm not saying I'm perfect with it, but this is not the first conversations like these I've had in my career. So there's a lot I can draw back on. And again, what makes my job easier is I've got two good players and I got two really good kids that are committed to the team. And that's what makes this. If I didn't have that, if I had selfish guys, if I had guys who weren't committed to the team or guys that weren't very good players, it wouldn't be very much fun. I mean, there's no easy way around that. But fortunately, I got two good ones.
Last one, back to Barry.
Yeah, Lincoln, you got a lot going on in the game. You're the head coach, you're the offensive coordinator. You got to figure out when a punt got blocked, all kinds of stuff. How engaged are you with whoever's not playing quarterback? In other words, say Spencer was still locked in. How'd you know he was locked in?
Yeah, just I interact with them after every series. I typically bring them over and talk to them either during one of the timeouts. Try to typically catch it during the timeout, but occasionally I'll be talking to them during the defensive series and then watching what's going on out there. So, and then through our talks at halftime, I could tell they were both very locked in and continued to communicate with both of them throughout the game. And I know those guys well enough, especially Spencer. Been in enough with him. Like I can tell when he's locked in and ready, and he was locked in and ready.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, thanks.